can't believe I'm saying this, but January actually hasn't been that bad for movies this year. 13 Hours to Secret Soldiers of Benghazi is directed by Michael Bay, written by Chuck Hogan, and stars John Krasinski and David Denman. I'm just going to dive right in. I want to start with John Krasinski's performance because pretty much everybody knows John Krasinski is a fantastic actor. He's shown it again and again and again. But the problem is he tends to not choose the best films to be in a lot of the time. Or at least not to choose career-advancing films to be in. He was in Smiley Face, he did Brief Interviews with Hideous Men, he's kind of just chosen a lot of films that most of them weren't that career advancing. And then recently he was in Aloha, and I was really worried that that would doom him to never really being in anything big again, because I really like John Krasinski, because I watched him as a kid on The Office, and I really like him. I'm so happy to tell you this movie was actually good, and John Krasinski was the main character and delivered an incredible performance. He did such a good job. Now, one of my complaints is that the characters are a little thin in this film, but even with a character that's a little thin, John Krasinski gave him so much more depth than just what was written into the script, and it comes through. His eyes in the film are acting. All of his face and his body, it's all acting so well. I was really pleased with his performance in this film and how deep he made this character come off, even though the character wasn't written overly deep for this film. I also want to talk about David Denman. David Denman was also in The Office. He played Roy, and he's done a few films since then. Actually, a decent number of films since then, but he's always playing sort of a side character that's there but doesn't say a lot. But David Denman's a really good actor. I really like him. So I was hoping he would have a bigger role in this film. He didn't really have a very big role in this film. He's there throughout the film, but he doesn't say very much and he doesn't do very much. There's a scene where I thought we were going to get some actual dramatic acting from him, where he sits down to have a conversation with somebody, and he gets 2 lines out, and then they get interrupted and the scene just ends. And that bothered me because I really do like David Denman, and I really did want to see him have a bigger role in this film. But he did a very good job with what he was given. That brings us to the script, which of course is a pretty good script because it was written by Chuck Hogan, who wrote The Town. And it is a pretty good script. There are issues I have with the script that I'll get to in a little bit. The characters are well written, but they are a little thin. There are definitely a few small things to talk about later that do have to do with the script. For the most part, it works. There are some jokes that do come off a little awkward, and I'm not sure if they were in the script or if they were things that Michael Bay wrote, kind of put in there. Because they came off more like Michael Bay Transformers sort of jokes, and less like the kind of jokes I would expect in this film, especially from somebody who wrote a script as incredible as a script for The Town. I know he's done more than that, but The Town is one of my favorite movies. But the script is very good for the most part, and it works very well, and the characters feel real, and it does take time to build things up. It's not just relentless action. So I think the script is very well written. And this brings us to Michael Bay's directing, and I have to say something here, guys. Michael Bay did a good job. I know, hard words to swallow, but listen. Michael Bay found a genre that he can actually succeed in, as long as he doesn't write the script. Don't ever let him write a script. But war films work for Michael Bay because it's the style of directing that he has flows well into a war film, and he did downplay a lot of his Michael Bayisms in this film. They're still present, some of them, but they're not as big. There are explosions where you're like, that doesn't look real. There are a few of those, but it's only a few of those. And the first hour of this film, there is no action. It's dialogue. It was brilliantly written by Chuck Hogan that introduces these characters. It's very well done. And Michael Bay did a good job directing the film. There are parts where I'm like, bad decision. One of the big things for me were there are parts where he started using shaky cam. It's not over the top, but there are parts where, oh, okay, he shook the camera for no reason. The thing that bothered me the most was that most of the time when there was kind of shaky cam, it wasn't really bad shaky cam, but where the camera was shaking or moving a lot of it was during dialogue. Not very much of it was actually during action. The action was actually fairly well directed and had fluid shots and steady cam. the shaky cam scenes were usually when they were talking, which didn't quite work for me. But overall, the directing of this film was actually really well done. Obviously, the score is good. I'm just going to touch on this briefly. The score is obviously good because it's Hans Zimmer. It's nothing great. It's just good. It's there and it works for the film. Which is a little disappointing because Hans Zimmer composes beautiful scores for films. But this film was sort of like he came in and he went, yep, here, this will work. This sounds good with the film. But there's nothing all that great about the score. It's just a good score that fits the film. But I want to talk about the bad things really quick. So the first thing is, it's a Michael Bay movie, so we all know, I'm going to say it, it's way too long. Way too long. And the reason it's way too long is because the film doesn't justify being that length, especially how it's done. So I mentioned a couple things I had problems with in the script, and this is one of them. The first hour, which I already said was a great first hour. It was very well directed, it was well written, it made sense, it introduced the characters. The problem is, it was completely unnecessary. Because you have the first hour introducing the characters, getting John Krasinski to fly in to Syria, this whole thing, and then it says 5 months later, and it jumps completely forward in time. It was pointless. Because that whole first hour basically exists because they didn't want to just introduce us to the characters after they had all met, because they'd have to be more creative about how they introduced the characters. So instead of doing that, which would have been more entertaining probably, and would have made the film be a lot shorter, they gave us an hour of just talking, well acted, well written, well directed dialogue, but an hour of it that was unnecessary, and then skipped 5 months into the future before anything happened. And it just was unnecessary, and the film, about 3/4 of the way through, starts to drag because you realize how long you've been sitting in this theater, and it's only 10 o'clock in the movie, and the attacks are just starting, and you're like, oh my gosh, this film's taking forever. And then it gets into relentless action, it gets really entertaining again, but like, that first hour, even though it's great, drags the rest of the film down because it screws up the pacing. The other time jumps in the film work very well. They use time jumps to show, okay, now it's this time of day within the 13 hours of the attacks in Benghazi, and it works and makes sense. And it actually, you know, the style for that and for how it's presented on the screen, I think that all worked fine. The time jump of 5 months was just way out of nowhere. It did not work at all. But overall, guys, this is actually a very well-directed, well-written, well-acted film that left the politics out of the situation and just showed what these soldiers were going through. It didn't have to say Clinton did this, or the Republicans did this, or the military did this. It was just showing, like, look, these are the people that were there, that didn't know what was happening, that didn't know who was saying what, or what was being said, or what was being done, or why these people were attacking them. They just knew they were being attacked, and that they needed to defend people, and they went in and they did what they could do. And putting you in the shoes of those people, letting you see this and not know what's happening. And that, to me, was a very good decision. I really enjoyed this film. I'm going to give 13 Hours to Secret Soldiers of Benghazi a B. Thanks for watching. Have you seen it? Please comment below and let me know what you thought of it. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you next time.